pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, September 10th, 2019. This is the Mitchell County Board of Supervisors meeting. We are at the Mitchell County Courthouse. It is 8:30, and we have an agenda before us. Is there any corrections? If not, I would entertain a motion.
I'll make that motion, but would you like to also make it for the claims at the same time?
Oh, yep, approve the minutes.
Okay.
And claims.
No, you're doing the
We're
agenda
doing, we're
first.
doing agenda. I'll, so move for the agenda.
Okay.
Second.
Barb has made a motion. Stanley is seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Approve the minutes of September 2nd meeting and the claims.
I can do that now, since I confused you with going with the next one.
Second.
For claims too. I have a couple questions that I'll ask Lowell later. It won't make any changes, it's just stuff I want clarified.
Okay.
Barb has made a motion. Stan is seconded. Roll call. Barb?
Aye.
Stan?
Aye.
Smolik, aye. County Attorney, general discussion.
I really don't have anything, just, this is more just an update. I mark up my files, and as they come across my desk, I look at them and see why I marked them up. The last time we had that meeting on approving a confinement facility, there was that letter presented that you could decline the application if it didn't meet the number of points, and one of the things was, for any other reason the board thought was relevant. And I had requested that she contact the person who sent that letter and say, provide me with a legal authority that says we can do that for any other reason we think is relevant. And I haven't received any response, so that's neither here nor there. It's just interesting. People will make claims all the time, but then when you say give them the legal authority, it's like there isn't any. They just make it up and they want you to think that that's the law, but then when you say give me the law, there is none. So you can't always believe what people tell you what the law is. So isn't that shocking? I don't know if you guys have had a chance to look at this.
No,
or not.
I have not. I mean,
Okay.
I got that last night.
Okay.
I haven't made a
I'll,
copy of it.
I'll leave this here, and then Stan, you can make a copy and get it to everybody. Basically, this has to do with seatbelt uses on buses and refusal of service. They're saying that they can't refuse to provide service to someone if they refuse to put their seatbelts on because of the Americans with Disabilities Act. And I said, I completely agree with their analysis. If I have a disability and I can't use a seatbelt, that's one thing. You can't refuse them service because of that. But if you want to have a rule that says you have to have your seatbelt on, and the person says, I'm not going to wear my seatbelt just because I don't want to, then in that situation, I think you have the right to refuse them service.
Well, and I'm not an attorney in that, but looking at that second page again, he tries to reference that the Iowa DOT, this is also part of the Iowa code, which...
Well, I haven't looked at that code section, but I'm confident what it says is you don't have to wear a seatbelt if you're on the bus. That's the law. That doesn't mean that you can't require it. If someone gets in my car and wants to sit in the back seat, the law doesn't require them to wear a seatbelt, but I can certainly say, if you want to get in my car and you want to ride with me, you're wearing your seatbelt or you get out. And it's the same, in my opinion, it's the same situation here. You guys can have reasonable rules, and one of the reasonable rules is you're going to wear a seatbelt. Now, if you've got a disability that prohibits you from doing that, just get a letter from your doctor that says, I've got a disability and I can't wear a seatbelt, and we won't make you wear one. But I think otherwise, you guys can enact reasonable rules. If someone was getting up and walking around the bus, I think a reasonable, when it's moving, I think a reasonable rule is you have to sit down. well, I don't think a person could say, well, I've got a disability, so I don't have to sit down. You know, I think you could have a reasonable rule. And a reasonable rule is you have to wear a seatbelt.
Well, and what again is really pushing this time is when we had our meeting last month or whatever, or excuse me, it wasn't even, or I brought it up at our board meeting. I had stopped at the COG office because there was an individual riding one of our buses that refused to wear the seatbelt. He was in the front seat, and apparently while turning the corner, the bus hit the brake. He slid out of the seat, must have injured his neck. 3 days later, he died from that injury. And so we're wondering again what possibly is going to be happening because of this injury. But like you say, the bus driver supposedly told him he had to wear the seatbelt. He refused, but
And I think we should keep saying that they have to, and
but then we're
They
just
don't do
part
it,
of the,
they-
we're part of
there's
the
nothing
COG
we can do about it.
organization that, you know, and
Yeah.
how much authority do we have over the, I mean, outside of, we're one vote.
Yeah. Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, you can bring it up, and if they vote to do it, fine, and if they don't,
right,
it's end of the discussion.
really it protects
But yeah, I can-
everybody involved.
I can make a copy for the other two here and then make you a copy.
Or I can take it, how about I just take it, scan it,
Yeah.
and email everybody a copy?
Yeah, that'd be fine.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
that'd be fine.
The other thing that I got is, the other night, I got a phone call again from a member of the Carpenter City Council. And of course, this gets back to Dwayne Tesh again in Carpenter and that. And so he started in on me, how come we didn't have a building inspector and so on and so forth. And got a little upset with me, and in any event, he keeps coming back then to, Dwayne is living there, and basically, he's not connected to the sewer. Is this something that, because the county is overseeing this maintenance of the sewer in Carpenter, if he's not gonna use the sewer, if he has a pail in the yard and that's where he's doing his thing, why, can we condemn the building or?
The first answer I can give you is without looking at all of the documents, I don't know the answer.
Sure.
Is there a requirement that, does he have water or not?
No, he doesn't have water neither.
There's probably not a requirement if you don't have water. There's probably a requirement if you have water, you have to have sewer. But there's probably not a requirement that if you don't have, I hate the double negative, if you don't have water, you probably don't have to have sewer. And I can understand why they're upset, but the problem is, this isn't a county deal. You know, they don't want to spend the money because they know how difficult and how expensive it is to try to do something about that.
Mm-hmm.
And they don't want to spend the money and the time to do it, which I don't blame them. If they can get the county to do it, why not do it? But without seeing all the documents, number one, I don't think it's a county issue. It just isn't. Everything can't be a county problem.
Well, and that's what I kind of alluded to him, that part of the time they want it to be a city issue, and then like you say, when it doesn't fall right within how, then it should be a county issue.
And I understand exactly what they're saying. I mean, if I were on the city council, I'd say the same thing. Let's see if we can get the county to do it. But it's not a county issue.
It may be also depending on, and I'm sure he has no permit, but I think you can get an outhouse permit. You know, they have them up around McIntyre, and some of those people don't have their permitting either, so I guess there may be a loophole in that too.
Yeah. I don't know the answer. I mean, if somebody wants to provide me with all the documents, if the city of Carpenter wants to provide me with all the documents and show me the spot that says we're responsible for it, I'll be glad to take a look at it, but I just don't think we are. I mean, we do the financial end of it, but we're not responsible for anything else.
No, we're basically, to maintain that system. But I don't know that it's our requirement who's part of that system.
Yeah, I would have to agree.
But I thought I'd at least bring it up so
Yeah.
that the individual understood that,
Like I
I
said,
didn't sweep it under the table.
if they want to provide me with the documents that says the county's responsible for this, I'll be more than happy to take a look at it. I'll be more than happy to give you my opinion, and if we're responsible for it, we'll do something about it, but I just don't think we are. But that's been how many years ago? 15, 20?
No,
How many years ago was that, when that sewer went
Probably approaching 15. I don't know, it was in 2006.
I don't think Cheryl and Vern weren't on the board.
I think-
I think it was,
Bob and
yeah,
Joel.
Bob and Joel were on the board. I would assume
got those
about 10, 11 years ago.
There's a couple ordinances, I can check the date.
in? Okay.
I think 2007.
Okay. That's it, unless anybody else has anything.
Well, I do see that Representative Bloomingdale is here, and as long as all of you are still here, I'm sure she's interested in if we have any issues or that are state issues, that we want to at least quickly. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Just here to say hello. I didn't come for anything in particular, but if you do have some state issues or anything, please, I'd love to.
Rich or Greg, I mean, anything that basically,
Yeah, I'll just beat a dead horse. We're spending a tremendous amount of money this month on mental health issues for inmates, and I don't know what you can do about that. But I've got people in my jail right now that should be in a hospital, and they're in the jail, so. You wanna take that word to the governor or whoever, that'd be good, Jan, appreciate it.
We will. We hear that. I think things are trying to get things a little bit better, trying to free up more the short-term space, but it takes time to do that. Thank
That's
you.
all I have, well, thank you.
Is there any other comments for our representative? If not, we'll let her, Mark, I'm gonna come over and visit you later.
Okay,
You take a couple minutes of your time.
all right.
Thank you.
Yeah, just, Greg, if I don't even have to say the name, but you know who I'm talking about. We've had situations here, and it is so hard to keep somebody committed now under the new, you know, we've got way too many people committed, and we want to release all these people so they can live in the community with dignity. And that's what they actually said, live in the community with dignity. And it makes it so hard to keep people committed against their own will on mental health hearings. It's virtually impossible. We had this one case where we worked for months and months and finally got this person committed to independence, and I think the person beat Aaron home from independence. You know what I mean? That's, and 2 days later she was back in jail because, you know, she was offered drugs and she was living in a cardboard box and she was throwing feces, and, you know, it's just, but that's what they define as living with dignity in the community. You know, they say they're better off being released back into the community than they are being, you know, down like at Independence or at 5 East. And even the judge says, well, I guess we're gonna have to release her so she can go back to the community and live in dignity. You know, and that's in a cardboard box throwing her own feces. But that's dignity, because we can't, she's not a risk of, because you have to be an immediate risk of harm to yourself or others. So if you're gonna hurt yourself or you're gonna hurt somebody when you go off your medication 3 days from now, you're not at immediate risk of harm, so they release them. I mean, they're releasing people all the time from 5 East that should never be released.
Well-
Never be released.
This particular inmate was released 2 days ago, and he's already in our jail. He's back on his meds because we're buying them, and I think he would go to a facility if there weren't warrants for him in another state. But he's so deep in the system
Yeah,
that now when he wants to go for help, he can't go.
and I think you would agree, a large percentage of your inmate population is mental health and drugs.
Drugs and alcohol. You'll see the bills coming this. from
You
the
know,
next claim
if
session.
there wasn't for mental health issues, drugs, because they need drugs, so they commit robberies, they commit burglaries, they write bad checks, they steal, then they end up in jail. They're not a stealing problem, they're not a robbery problem, it's a drug problem. You remove the drugs from the equation, they're not there.
We'll have an 8-hour emergency room visit bill from last week. Went from domestic abuse to him swallowing a bunch of pills prior to us arresting him, and we went right to the hospital. We were there 8 hours before he ever seen our jail.
And you gotta have a deputy there.
Yep.
Hospital won't let the deputy leave,
You
so
have to.
you have to have a deputy sit there for the entire time they're
Yeah.
down in the hospital.
Yeah, so we gotta do something.
Yes, Crystal?
Can I add to that by saying that it is so hard, can I add to that by saying that it is so hard to get any form of a mental health appointment for someone, even juveniles? A lot of places in the area aren't accepting what they call new patients. And so even if you have a juvenile who's on medication, trying to get a med check for them can take months and oftentimes ends up with them in an ER and then at 5 East before they can even get medication changes. There's just such a shortage of mental health facilities or places that can see even kids up here.
Well,
It's
county
really difficult.
social services received information that they were going to start requiring that they help juveniles with mental health, but no money came with it. Now, I think some money might have come with it now, I'm not sure on that, but I have to wonder if it's enough.
I called the University of Iowa hospitals and clinics yesterday morning about their admission process for an inmate. And if it's an outpatient admission, they're booking you in April and May of 2020. That's as soon as you can get in. So the best that we can tell these people is present to the ER. And hopefully they'll put you in an inpatient unit.
That's exasperating.
So,
Yeah, and just in juvenile court, to follow up with yours, it's not a funding issue in juvenile courts a lot of times. A lot of times the money is there. There just isn't a bed,
Place to
there
go.
just isn't a provider. You
Yeah.
call up the provider says, I'm booked, I'm not taking anybody else, And they're all saying that, we're all booked, we're all full. The money's there to pay you, but I just don't, and you can't find people. They're just not available. It's just a terrible, terrible
It
situation.
really is.
Well, then to pick your brain just a little bit, Representative Bloomingdale, what do you see happening this next year with basically marijuana?
Medical marijuana, I see that moving through, the CBD oils, et cetera. I think that will definitely move through. There was a glitch in some numbers. I would call it a complete miscommunication on some numbers. We're waiting for the recommendation from the board to give us the numbers and the amounts. And when they give us that recommendation, I think it'll move through very quickly. It was, I think, an almost unanimous vote out of the House. So I see that moving through quickly. Is that your question?
Well, that's half of it. What about the recreational part?
Recreational. I didn't hear much discussion on the recreational last year, but with the Illinois legislature passing it, And Illinois is the first legislature to pass it without a referendum. I know it'll be a vote in Minnesota probably early this year, or this next year, excuse me. I would see it probably passing in Minnesota. I don't know what we'll see in Iowa. It'll be interesting to see. There are still studies to look at in states that have had it legal for 5 to 10 years and see how it's working there.
I mean, with both of those, if they do pass it, that can cause us more problems, the way things are right now here in Iowa. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but.
Oh, it will. Oh, yeah. But I think Minnesota's wrong, and I think Illinois is wrong. I think some of the politicians want to get elected so bad that they're willing to pass anything and keep their seat.
I really don't see it coming in the next few
It's
years in
politically
Iowa.
motivated.
It's politically motivated and it's monetarily motivated. How much money is this gonna generate in tax? Not how much is it gonna cost us on the opposite end, how much money are we gonna bring in? Let's just look at how much we're gonna bring in, but let's not look at what it's gonna cost us on the other end for.
Right. But the argument for
Wait,
that.
excuse me, sorry. One thing you just said, we are looking at that.
Oh, okay.
I mean, people act like, oh, it's only about the money coming in. No, that's why you look at the studies of Colorado, Washington, the states that have had it legal for a while. They talk about the tax revenue and how much money is coming in, but what does it cost the state?
Okay.
And it's costing the state a lot of money.
Okay.
So that is one thing that I think is a real concern.
And I
when
think
we
that
talk about
argument,
recreational
yeah,
marijuana.
the tax argument to me rings hollow because it's a cash business. Who's gonna report their income?
Well,
And I think it causes more crime, and we've seen a crime elevation, because it is a cash business. Federally, it's still illegal. So until it's legal federally,
And
we're gonna have issues. It'll always be a cash business, and I
Yeah.
think you just create a lot of problems.
and the medical side of it, I'm not 100% against, but I think it needs to be inpatient treatment. We do so well, you know, with our drugs at home now we're adding marijuana to it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a recommendation that needs to come from our medical
So,
community. They're the people that deal with that and know the benefits.
I don't know if there's any, it's not science-based.
Yeah.
well, I stand
Anyway.
corrected on that.
Well-
Whenever you hear it on the news, they always say Colorado reports they brought in $300 million in taxes, but they never say, oh, and by the way, they spent X amount of money.
Yeah.
They never
Right.
report that. So
Well,
I just assumed they weren't even looking at that, so I stand corrected on that.
Well, I'm not sure the news is, so I won't speak for them, but I know there's some discussion at the state on both those.
Well, thank you.
Anything else? All right, thank you.
Greg?
Maybe you could have Rich go and talk to Mark a minute. Would that
Oh,
work?
that's fine. Yeah,
Thank you.
go ahead. Good morning, Rich.
Morning. Don't have much for you this morning, just what we have on the agenda. Got the official truck quote from Nuss Truck. And comparing it to what we had last year, they are offering, I think total truck cost with the snow equipment that we have set up now, the way we have things set up, that package is $244,250. They offered us $3,000 trade for each of the two internationals that are sitting out there, which seems to be that was Nuss Truck's trade-in quote, and I think even Chrysler gave us $3,000, so it's a wash. That puts our overall price down to $238,250. Now, one thing we didn't have in there is we add a ladder to the side of the box so the guys can get up and look inside the box, and then there's a spray-in liner or a pour-in liner we put in there for additional costs. So with trades, we're looking at $239,560 for the unit, 10-month delivery. Last year's trucks were $235,147, and that was, I don't believe we had trades in there at all. So prices of steel has gone up with tariffs and everything else, newer models. I don't think it's a bad price. The demo unit they brought us to look at, which we could have bought, was $258,000 and change. So instead of paying for all the little extras they threw on that demo truck, we went and decided to get the one we want to get that fits our needs. So that's the price. It's not a terrible price, judging from It'll be a 2020 model truck, I believe it is. It'll be thought it was a 2020. So, what'll be the newest model they have that's manufactured, so. We budgeted 240,000 for a truck, so I guess we're right in that ballpark.
Yep.
I'll be expecting a motor grader quote by the end of the week from CAD, know what we have there. So,
I guess,
Move.
comments.
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay.
all right, we'll get that going. I emailed you guys.
Vote on it.
Let's vote on this and resolve it.
All right,
Stanley has made a motion, Barb has seconded. Roll call, Stanley,
Aye.
Barb,
Aye.
Smollett, aye. So, that has been approved officially.
all right, and then you guys have the information for new hires.
Yes.
I don't know if you guys have any concerns, questions about new hires. I have not notified anybody, so I would prefer not giving any names. If you guys are okay with the names that was presented to you, we could do that, and then I could.
I've done a little asking around and nobody seems to be carrying any baggage or that, so I have no problem.
No concerns.
So what I will do then, if everybody's okay, I will offer the positions to those individuals and bring it back to you next Tuesday for a final.
I think that sounds good.
All right, do that. And then also, I don't know when it'll be this fall yet, but we've got, you guys had offered up that $250,000 of TIF money, and we're using that on some bridge deck overlay projects, so Denko is gonna be coming in here this fall. They don't have time to do all the bridge decks we have slated, but they'll be doing probably the Otranto Bridge first, and then working their way. If they can get another one done this year, they'll start in the spring then and finish out. So just kind of give you an update on that.
Greg.
So. Any questions on anything else? I'm gonna be gone after today, maybe this afternoon, so I'll be gone for the rest of the week.
I will visit Merlin here later when I get done with county attorney. So.
Any concerns I need to?
No.
Okay. All right. Yep, I'll talk with Shannon. I'm trying to get that RISE project finalized with the DOT, so.
Okay.
If you have nothing, I guess I'm available by phone. See how the weather goes. Maybe I'll just sit on my phone all week.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah. So.
Going Ames?
Huh?
Going down Ames?
No, I'll hopefully be home by the time we kick the Hawkeyes' butt. So.
All right. Thank you, Richard. Have
It's an
fun.
arrival. Be a good game, I think. Have a good week.
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Sheriff,
Morning, everyone.
good morning.
Couple things, the Tahoe is ready to be advertised and sold. I can get all the particular stuff to Lowell unless you feel the county's got a use for it in a department. It's still in pretty good shape. I know it's not a pickup that secondary roads, prefers, but if there's a department in the county that could use it, there's still some life left in it.
Is there any need at the conservation stand?
Well, why don't we just have Lowell put that in a memo to all department heads that it's available for a price.
Greg, do you know what you want for that?
No, I guess I don't, Rich.
I think I still prefer a pickup. But
I think we'll be back next year we'll have a pickup available. Also if things go well, budget-wise, we'll have a pickup next year that can go somewhere.
We'll definitely be interested in the pickup, whether it's the road crew or whatever. So.
Okay. Well, the Tahoe's parked out back if you want to
Okay.
look at it.
Thank you.
Well, Lowell, you'll send a memo to the department heads, and we'll see if we can find a home for it within. If not, we'll probably have to put her in the paper.
Yeah, that works. Yeah, we have 6 this morning, domestic abuse, drug charges, probation revocations. We're holding one for Martin County, Minnesota. When he's done here, then they'll come and get him and he'll go to Martin County. Talked a few minutes briefly earlier about some of the inmates that we've had, you know, recently with mental health problems and drug problems. So that adds cost to us and stress on the staff, keeping those folks going and keeping them safe in the jail. So anyway, you'll see those bills, and that's what it's a result of. Buying meds and sitting with them at the ER, some of those things. Other than that, I don't think I have anything for you guys unless
Anybody have any
questions.
Sheriff?
So, okay.
Thank you, sir. Have a
You're
good
welcome.
week.
Thank you guys. Have a
Yep,
good
thank
week.
you kindly.
Yep.
Crystal?
Just cell phone use while driving in the county has gotten crazy. There's people all over the phones, either on 9 or 218, and of course in town during this city council meeting last night. But sitting in an intersection, actually watching 3 people go by talking on the phone and nearly hit one of the cars coming through.
Sure, as long as they're not texting, they're not in violation.
They can be talking on it. Wow.
Yep. I know Minnesota went hands-free, but it's just a texting issue for us. And virtually impossible to enforce because they can check emails or use map systems on their phone, just can't text.
I think Illinois is hands-free too.
Could be. But, yeah, I see it too, Crystal.
With a commercial license, are you able to use the phone, period? Or is it-
That has to be hands-free.
Okay.
Yeah. And that causes a lot of our crashes on days where it's sunny and road surfaces are just fine. There's no reason for a crash and somebody goes in the ditch. Typically it's a electronic device issue, you know, so. Yeah, so anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Greg.
You bet. Yes, have a good day. Yep. I will be going to Tama on Thursday, so I'll be out of the office.
I'll see you there.
Yeah. Sounds good.
Items of note, meetings attended. Barbara?
Well, let's see. The Iowa Workforce Development asked us as CEOs if we would post online our concerns about how the 15 regions going to 6, how it was handled. And the state did schedule some meetings concerning it, but anytime we asked any questions, and we asked a lot of questions, they were not answered at all. And we were told that they were told that there would be more meetings in the future to address these concerns, that they didn't answer at all. But no future meetings were held. Also, on several occasions, call-in information was changed and documents were not provided for the realignment meetings, and no explanation was given. And so anyway, I went to the site that the Iowa Workforce told us, and I just posted on the things that I knew about. There's other things, but those are the specific things I knew about. There was supposed to be a meeting with County Social Services concerning Kossuth County, that back payment that they owe. They have agreed to pay for it now, but it was going to be at 8:30 this morning, and they didn't give me enough notice to even change. All we would have to do is go 15 minutes different, but they didn't give me enough notice to change that. Because basically they're just, they sent the agreement to me, a 2080, just, you know, listing how it would need to go. And anyway, they're, I'm sure, already done with that. But I had no other meetings. I think it had to do with Labor Day. There weren't as many meetings as I normally have.
Okay, Stanley?
I just had the Council of Governments, and basically we are going to be able to get 9 new buses. We have 91 in our total fleet. We really had a need for 16, but that's better than last year when we only got 2. So in any event, and we have the money to cover those buses. The other thing that was brought up is that they are building houses in Prison Industries at Newton. And apparently they're going to have 12 of those available this coming year. But those houses are only going to be available in a 50-mile radius, so up here.
I wondered about that.
It'll be in 2021 that then those houses should be available to be sold up here in our area.
Because it sounds like a great concept.
It apparently the Iowa Housing Finance Authority must have gave them a grant of 1.2 million to get this thing started, and they think that they'll have about $105,000 in a house when it's all said and done, and that includes transportation to the site. That, in the event, basically was my meeting.
Okay, I have 3 of them. I had a meeting with Jason Palmer. This is about the Kephart property in New Haven. And we discussed what would need to be done and what needs to be done to keep track of bills and everything. We have a target date of October 8th, but that's still kind of up in the air. I have not got a confirmation. And he guesstimates that it'll take him 4 days to clean this property up. Moving on, we had a meeting in Mason City, and this would be EMA 911. It was about crisis leadership and decision making, and there's a booklet here. So the fellow supervisors, if you want to read that, it's very interesting. It's about 911 and the events that transpired after it. And it's basically command performance. It's on county firefighters taking charge of the 9/11 Pentagon emergency. And it's about the chief of operations in the Arlington County Fire Department, James Schwartz, and how through the course of the following days took command and how he administered out duties to the different organizations involved, county, state, federal, and including the FBI and the Department of Defense, who at times are, they do not, they don't get together, they don't work together, they're separate entities. This was a crime scene, and it was a national defense problem all at once. So here is a county firefighter, the chief, taking over this situation, which had worldwide implications. Jim Schwartz set up an incident command center and issued coordinated information and put many different organizations who are usually at odds together. He took information in that possibly saved lives at critical times. This meeting was 4 hours long, and it was intense. I mean, they made you think. It included sheriffs from many counties, supervisors, and emergency management personnel. And the information learned at this meeting could also be possibly used in our local incidents, whether they're man-made or from Mother Nature. So, it really made you think. And during the discussion of this, and this is for us here, it was brought up that if we had a tornado hit us like they did in Marshalltown, who's
What would we
responsible? Who's responsible? right here.
And
We're
as
it.
chair,
We're it, right here. We are the ones responsible for this county.
that's why I'm thrilled we updated our emergency plan, and at least we're thinking about it, you know, a little bit. This reminds me too, after the meeting, Alliant Energy sent me something, it would have been to Joel, just wanting an emergency contact, so I'm guessing that we put the chair in, but I'll check with you afterwards
All right.
for sure.
I had a short meeting out at Valent, and basically it was just, the company, they sent a compliance letter to the company and to the county, or to the company attorney, and they really were vague about it. They said they'd talk about it at the next meeting, so there was some other stuff that was discussed there, and that was more for the city. So I did not and will not discuss that. Last night I had a FMC Early Childhood of Iowa area meeting, and we approved, we discussed the financial report for the current period, and reviewed board action, and again, we moved on. We talked about executive team and their leadership roles, and our executive team is Kathy Herrick, and vice chair is Twyla Dietz, and then Lori Christensen, she is the person that is in charge of FMC Early Childhood. Also discussed was the future leadership roles for FMC ECI, and that's where talk about where we need to have a representative from Mitchell County that is from the clergy, a minister, reverend, priest, or somebody that's on church board that would help become a member of this committee and serve on the board. So that's something that keep in mind. Stanley, Barb.
I'm gonna add to that too, because Iowa Workforce Development and Community Action, those meetings I attend in Mason City, they're always looking for someone too in that area.
Yeah, it's hard to get somebody to serve on the board. And on this, they would prefer a male person to have gender equality.
Oh, they already have quite a few women.
Yes, there's only 4 fellas on this, and they want to have it 50-50, but I will accept somebody.
I would guess they would take.
Yes. We had approval of scholarship rates for the year 20. That was motion carried. They discussed business for the annual meeting business for the 20th. This is the 20th consecutive year that FMC Early Childhood of Iowa area has been. And they had comments from Kathy Herrick and Twyla Dietz, and then they also said a goodbye to Mrs. Bean Blossom. Is it Nancy? I think her name is Nancy Bean Blossom. She's been part of this. She's with Lutheran Services, and she's retiring, and she's going to get out of it. Period. She's not going to help anymore. They discussed early childhood financials, school-ready financials. They did a community plan update, and they also did a board attendance. They had an executive report, and then they had provider, the people that for school-ready and early childhood. They had them, families together, Learning Connections, Head Start, and then they discussed the early childhood grant. And anyways, it was a pretty long meeting, and it was hot downstairs in the basement of Charles City Courthouse, so it was nice to get out of there at 8 o'clock. So anyways, that is my meetings.
I have a couple comments.
Yes.
Would you remind Valent that the 21st is autumn artistry, so they don't have smell that day? That's coming up soon.
I'm sure they know that.
And, Lowell, would you maybe send a reminder to the department heads, just asking if they have any, questions for Heartland Insurance attorneys? Because that's this Thursday, and if they do, they should probably send it to my email. And that's it.
Okay. Last thing here is public comments.
I'm
Yes,
just making a public comment, just to let you know that the redistricting committee is,
Gotta speak up.
I just was commenting on the redistricting committee that we've met, we were finalizing, getting ready for publishing the public hearing. We plan on having that September 30th at the Milton Nature Center, and then we'll work at getting on the board agenda for October 1st.
perfect, thank you. Any other public comment? Jane, would you like to add any more?
Nothing. I just came to sit in.
Really want to thank you for coming to our board meeting because quite often representatives, or senators for that matter, I mean, never do. And we do appreciate that you're taking the time to listen to our concerns. And again, we appreciate it.
Well, since I have a moment, I do have one comment. I would like to, I was going to talk with Lowell and see if I could set something up. I'd like to set up a morning, a 7:30 on a Tuesday, possibly to have sort of a, not an open house, but a small forum or a meet and greet, I don't care what you want to call it, before one of your supervisor meetings, and an opportunity for department heads to come down, employees, any county workers, as the chair of local government. Any of your concerns are gonna probably run through my committee. So I do really wanna hear from our smaller counties. Sometimes I think the larger counties are represented a little strongly in, a little more strongly, whichever the word, in Des Moines. And I wanna make sure that I'm hearing from the 3.5 local counties that I represent. So I'd like to try to get something set up. Maybe we can talk for a second after the meeting, if that would be something you might be interested in. It'd just be an opportunity for any of you or any of your department heads or employees to, you know, come in and express any concerns, questions, anything they'd like to see or not see.
I'm glad to hear that, because I do feel like a lot of times the whole northern part of the state, we do get on the back burner, we feel like, and that we're not being heard. And
I feel that way
that's not
sometimes
just
also.
with the county government. It was the same way when I was at the Chamber of Commerce and when I was at the library. We would go to meetings, and a lot of times they just pertain to large metropolitan areas. Had nothing to do with us.
More people, but it's,
Yeah.
north of Highway
Yeah.
3.
Yeah.
So I would like to try to set that up if we could.
And I'm glad you were here to hear my thoughts on the redistricting too, some concerns that they had.
Okay, I'm kind of curious to talk with you about that a little bit.
Okay.
I'm sure that the three of us can stay here a little bit later and visit with you.
If you give me just a handful of minutes, that's all I need. I know
think
you have other work to do, and unfortunately so do I, so.
Okay. Well, anyways, if there isn't any other public comments, we can